depths of space, an ancient galactic empire delivered its ultimatum: obey our laws or be erased. 30 alien warships arrived to enforce humanity's surrender. But when the enemy commander demanded Earth kneel, one defiant human captain looked them dead in the eyes and replied, "That's adorable." Before we dive deeper into the story, please subscribe. It costs you nothing but helps stellar HFY a lot. In the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Orion Arm, where empires spanning 10 millennia had carved the stars into neat territories, humanity was nothing more than a fleeting anomaly. A young, noisy species that had only just learned to leave its own atmosphere. We laughed, we fought, we dreamed, unaware that ancient eyes had already marked us. Then the signal came. It struck Earth like a silent thunderbolt. Every screen, every radio, every phone and smart device on the planet activated at once. No jamming. No resistance. The holographic figure materialized simultaneously in the United Nations chamber, over Times Square, inside the Kremlin war room, above Beijing's Forbidden City, and in every military bunker from Cheyenne Mountain to the depths of the Pacific. The being was majestic and terrifying. Towering at nearly 3 meters, its obsidian skin shimmered with faint bioluminescent veins. Eyes like twin supernovas regarded humanity with the cold indifference of a god reviewing insects. Behind it, the rotating insignia of the Galactic Concordance glowed, 327 species strong, masters of the galaxy for untold ages. Planetary Civilization 47892b. The entity intoned, its voice a perfect, translated melody that somehow conveyed both serenity and absolute finality. You have entered the detection threshold. You now have 30 Earth solar cycles to submit fully to galactic law. All development of weapons exceeding low-orbit capability must cease immediately. Surrender all nuclear, relativistic, and quantum armaments. Accept permanent concordance oversight and pacification teams. Failure to comply will result in the immediate neutralization of your world to prevent interstellar contamination. The transmission ended. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first 6 hours, Earth teetered on the edge of total collapse. Stock markets crashed. Governments declared emergencies. Religious leaders called it the end times. Social media erupted into a frenzy of panic, denial, and dark humor. In major cities, people gathered in the streets, staring upward as if expecting the sky to split open. But in the newly activated Seoul Defense Command buried deep beneath the Swiss Alps, one man refused to bow to fear. Captain Elias Kane, 38, leaned back in his reinforced command chair, arms crossed, a scarred smirk playing across his weathered face. Former Navy SEAL. Veteran of conflicts the public would never know about. His eyes, one real, one cybernetic replacement from a mission gone wrong, studied the frozen alien hologram like a predator sizing up prey. "That's adorable," he muttered. Commander Lena Voss, his second-in-command, spun toward him, pale-faced. "Sir, did you not hear the same message I did? They just threatened to wipe us out. These aren't Hollywood aliens. They're tech. It's beyond anything we've imagined." Kane stood slowly, his tall, muscular frame casting a long shadow across the tactical table. "I heard it perfectly, Commander. They sent a fancy light show and expected us to roll over like good little primitives. They've been ruling the galaxy so long they've forgotten what a cornered animal looks like." He walked to the massive screen displaying real-time solar system scans. "They think their age and numbers make them untouchable. We're going to teach them that humans don't do submit." Within hours, the Concordance followed up. A sleek, silver probe ship slipped out of faster-than-light travel just beyond Pluto's orbit. It broadcast horrifying footage, entire planets reduced to molten glass, atmospheres stripped away in seconds, civilizations erased as casually as deleting a file. The images were surgical, perfect, designed to shatter the human will to resist. Instead, they forged it into something sharper. World leaders convened in emergency session. Debates raged. Some nations wanted to surrender. Others argued for negotiation. Kane appeared via secure quantum link, his presence commanding even through a screen. "They expect obedience because they've never met anyone who told them no," he said, voice low and gravelly. We didn't survive ice ages, world wars, and our own stupidity just to kneel to the first bully with shiny ships. I say we fight. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. Earth would not bow. As the 30-day countdown burned across every screen on the planet, Captain Kane took command of humanity's desperate gamble, the UNS Defiance. Built in secret asteroid shipyards over 15 years, the vessel was a brutal masterpiece of human ingenuity and defiance. Angular, heavily armored, bristling with railguns, experimental singularity warheads, and engines pushed far beyond safe limits. No elegance. Just raw, ugly power. On day 29, the enemy arrived. 30 sleek silver warships materialized at the edge of the solar system, their energy signatures drowning out the sun. High Prelate Varicthul, ancient and imperious, opened a direct channel to the Defiance. Human vessel. Power down your primitive weapons. Surrender your captain for galactic judgment. Your world may yet be spared as a protected reserve. The bridge crew stared at Kane, hearts pounding, sweat beading on their foreheads. Captain Elias Kane stepped forward, eyes blazing with cold fire. He leaned in close to the camera, his voice a deadly whisper that carried across the void. That's adorable. High Prelate Varicthul froze in his command throne. Insulted. Mocked. By a primitive species that had barely mastered nuclear fission. The word adorable burned through every officer on the Concordance flagship like venom. Open fire, he commanded, voice colder than absolute zero. Annihilate that vessel. Then begin orbital bombardment of their homeworld. Let the galaxy remember what happens to those who defy the Concordance. 30 silver warships unleashed their fury. Brilliant plasma lances sliced across the darkness, each one hot enough to vaporize cities. Gravitic disruptors warped space itself, creating invisible singularities that crushed matter into oblivion. The first volley crossed the distance in mere minutes. Aboard the UNS Defiance, chaos erupted. Evasive pattern Omega-9. Captain Elias Kane roared, gripping the command rail. All power to countermeasures. Gunnery crews, target their lead ships, fire at will. The Defiance was never built for grace, but it was built for war. The massive ship spun violently, thrusters flaring as it jinked through the deadly barrage. Countermeasure drones exploded outward in clouds of chaff and electronic ghosts. Yet 3 plasma lances still connected. The hull screamed. Deck 7 vented to space instantly, taking 20 crew with it. Explosions rippled through the midsection. Commander Lena Voss was hurled into a console, blood spraying from a gash on her forehead. Direct hits on sections Bravo and Echo, she shouted. Shields at 37%. We can't take another volley like that. Kane's scarred face showed no fear, only savage focus. Then we don't let them fire another clean shot. Bring us to point-blank range. All railguns online. Load the special munitions. Humanity's railguns, ugly, brutal weapons, opened up. Depleted uranium slugs wrapped in experimental antimatter catalysts accelerated to nearly half the speed of light. They slammed into the alien shields like divine hammers. The Concordance crews were stunned. Primitive kinetics should not have threatened them. Yet the first slug punched straight through an adapting shield. The second detonated deep inside the hull. A beautiful silver warship bloomed into a silent fireball, its death visible from Earth. Varicthul's eyes narrowed to slits. Focus all fire on the human ship. Overwhelm them. They are 1 against 30. The Defiance shuddered under the concentrated fury. Bulkheads buckled. Fires raged on multiple decks. Crew members died screaming in the vacuum. But Kane pushed the ship harder, closing the impossible distance. On Earth, billions watched the live feed in horrified awe. Families huddled together. World leaders sat in stunned silence. This was not a battle, it was a suicide charge. But humanity had prepared for exactly this nightmare. From hidden launchers in the asteroid belt and the shadowed craters of the moon, Project Thor's hammer activated. Massive tungsten rods, accelerated by magnetic rails to relativistic speeds, began raining down on the alien formation. New contacts, An alien officer screamed too late. The first rod struck a Concordance cruiser dead center. The impact released energy rivaling a tactical nuclear warhead. The ship disintegrated in a blinding flash. 2 more followed in rapid succession. Kane's voice cut across the open channel, dripping with defiance. "You came to our house uninvited. Now enjoy the welcome party." Inside one crippled alien vessel, human boarding pods slammed home. Marines in powered exosuits poured out, shotguns, heavy rifles, and pure rage leading the way. The corridor fighting was nightmarish. Energy beams burned through armor, but humans kept advancing. When guns ran dry, they used knives, fists, and teeth. Sergeant Ramirez, covered in alien blood, jammed a grenade into an enemy weapon port and laughed as the explosion took out 3 guards. Varrichthal watched the impossible unfold. His perfect fleet, undefeated for centuries, was being bloodied by savages. "These humans. They do not fight for victory," he whispered. "They fight because they enjoy the violence." Yet the prelate still held the ultimate card. "Prepare the Nova Lance on the flagship," he ordered. "Target their planet. Let them watch their world die while we destroy their last ship." Aboard the battered Defiance, now trailing atmosphere and debris, Kane stared at the massive enemy flagship growing larger in the viewport. "Helm, ramming course," he growled. "All remaining power to forward weapons and shields. If we're going down, we're taking that bastard with us." The Defiance charged straight into the jaws of hell, guns blazing, as the alien planet killer weapon began charging with an ominous crimson glow. The UNS Defiance was dying. Hull integrity had dropped to 43%. Multiple decks were open to the freezing void. Fires raged unchecked on levels 3 and 5. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, sealing screaming crew members inside burning sections. Yet Captain Elias Kane stood motionless at the center of the bridge, blood trickling from a cut above his eye, his cybernetic eye glowing with cold fury. His gaze never left the massive Concordance flagship growing larger in the viewport. "Bring us alongside," he growled, voice like grinding steel. "Ramming speed if we have to. Nothing else matters now." High Prelate Varrichthal watched the battered human ship charge through his fleet's fire with something approaching disbelief. "These creatures are insane," he muttered. Then, louder, "Prepare the Nova Lance. Target their homeworld directly. Let every soul on that planet watch their blue world burn before their pathetic ship is vaporized." The Nova Lance, a forbidden superweapon capable of cracking a planet's crust, began charging deep in the bowels of the flagship. Crimson energy coils hummed to life, drawing power from the ship's core. It would leave the solar system scarred for 1,000 years, but Varrichthal no longer cared about rules. The insult demanded extinction. Aboard the Defiance, Commander Lena Voss staggered to Kane's side, gripping his arm with blood-slick fingers. "Elias. If we don't stop that weapon in the next 4 minutes, Earth is gone. Even if we somehow win here, there'll be nothing left to save." For the first time since the battle began, the full weight of command crashed down on Kane. Billions of lives. Children. Families. Cities he had sworn to protect. One decision. One final gamble. He opened a direct channel to Earth, his voice broadcasting to every surviving screen on the planet. "This is Captain Elias Kane. If we fail today, remember what we fought for. Freedom isn't given by empires. It's taken from them. Fight on. Never kneel." He cut the transmission and turned to his exhausted crew. Faces streaked with sweat, blood, and tears looked back at him. "All remaining power to forward weapons and shields. Divert life support if you have to. We're ending this. Today." The 2 flagships closed the final distance like ancient beasts ready to tear each other apart. Silver perfection versus humanity's ugly, burning defiance. Plasma fire filled the void in brilliant, deadly streaks. The Defiance shuddered violently with every impact. Entire sections vented explosively into space. Yet the human railguns kept roaring, spitting relativistic death. Torpedoes streaked out, their primitive AI pilots making unpredictable adjustments that alien targeting systems couldn't track. "Boarding parties away," Kane ordered. 30 human Marines in heavy-powered armor launched from the Defiance in reinforced pods. They slammed into the alien flagship's hull using shape charges and raw momentum. Explosions bloomed across the pristine silver surface as they breached the outer armor through sheer stubbornness and combat experience. Inside the Concordance flagship, panic was spreading for the first time in centuries. Their perfect automated systems could not handle human unpredictability. Marines fought like demons in the narrow corridors, shotguns blasting alien warriors at point-blank range, combat knives flashing when ammo ran dry. Teeth and fists were used when everything else failed. Sergeant Ramirez stood over the broken body of his best friend, roaring with primal fury as he charged a towering alien elite guard. He jammed a live grenade straight down the barrel of the creature's energy cannon and kept firing his sidearm until the explosion consumed them both in a fireball. The bridge of the alien flagship trembled under the assault. "Prelate," a terrified officer screamed. "Their captain's ship is locking onto us with some kind of experimental singularity device." Kane's voice cut across the open channel, calm and deadly now, stripped of all emotion. "You wanted obedience? Here's my reply." With the last of its power, the Defiance fired its final, desperate weapon, an experimental black hole warhead. The warhead was small, but its effect was catastrophic. It didn't swallow the ship whole, but it tore through shields, ripped apart internal systems, and created violent gravitational shear that shredded bulkheads from the inside. A blinding explosion lit up the solar system like a second sun. Varikthal's once mighty flagship listed heavily, shields collapsing, critical systems failing in cascading waves. Alarms screamed across the bridge. But the Nova Lance had reached 97% charge. It was still aiming directly at Earth. Earth held its collective breath as the final seconds ticked down. Captain Elias Kane didn't wait for orders. He clamped on the heaviest powered armor the Defiance still possessed, its plates scorched and dented. Blood seeped from wounds across his torso, but pain only fueled the fire in his eyes. "I'm leading this one myself," he snarled. "Anyone who can still walk and hold a weapon, with me. We end this now." 30 Marines, bloody, exhausted, but unbreakable, followed their captain into the boarding pods. They slammed into the crippled Concordance flagship like vengeance incarnate. Shaped charges blew breaches through the failing silver hull. The moment the seals cracked, humans poured in with pure, unrelenting fury. The fighting inside was savage. Narrow corridors designed for graceful alien warriors became slaughterhouses. Energy beams burned through armor and flesh, but the Marines kept advancing. When rifles clicked empty, they switched to shotguns, then combat blades, then bare fists. One Marine tackled an alien guard, ripping its helmet off and smashing its head against the bulkhead until it stopped moving. Kane carved a path straight toward the Nova Lance control chamber, his heavy rifle barking in controlled bursts. Every step cost lives. Good men and women fell around him, but he pushed forward, jaw clenched, cybernetic eye glowing blood red. They reached the final armored doors just as the Nova Lance hit 98% charge. The massive weapon's hum vibrated through the deck plates like an earthquake about to erupt. The doors exploded open. There stood High Prelate Varikthal, towering and regal even in defeat, flanked by his last 4 elite guards. His obsidian face twisted with pure hatred. "You are insects," the prelate hissed, drawing a crackling energy blade. "We offered your savage species order and protection. And this is how you repay galactic civilization." Kane stepped forward, raising his rifle. "We prefer chaos." The room erupted into a final, brutal firefight. Kane dropped 2 guards with precise headshots before a plasma bolt slammed into his shoulder, spinning him around. He roared in pain but kept moving. His Marines handled the rest in a storm of gunfire and grenades. Within seconds, only Varikthal remained. The alien lunged with terrifying speed. The energy blade slashed across Kane's chest plate, carving deep molten lines. Varikthal grabbed him by the throat and slammed him against the wall with bone-crushing strength. Kane's helmet cracked. "You will watch your world die," the prelate growled. Kane laughed through bloodied teeth. "That all you got?" He drove his helmeted forehead straight into Varikthal's face, cracking the alien's exoskeleton. As the prelate staggered, Kane drove a combat knife deep into the joint between its neck and shoulder armor. Varikthal screamed and hurled him across the chamber. Kane crashed hard but rose again, swaying, vision blurring. At that exact moment, the Nova Lance reached 100%. "Fire it!" Varikthal roared triumphantly. Nothing happened. The prelate's eyes widened in pure shock and disbelief. Kane grinned savagely. "We hacked your systems 17 minutes ago. Your precious planet killer now belongs to Earth." With a final command from Kane's suit, the Nova Lance swiveled. Instead of targeting Earth, it unleashed its apocalyptic fury directly into the heart of the remaining Concordance fleet. One after another, the silver warships vanished in cataclysmic explosions that lit the solar system like a chain of dying stars. The bridge trembled as secondary explosions rocked the flagship. But the victory was short-lived. Space itself tore open as a massive Concordance reinforcement fleet, over 200 warships strong, dropped out of FTL. They arrived to a graveyard of burning wreckage and one battered, captured flagship now flying a makeshift Earth flag patched together from human uniforms. Kane limped back to the command throne of the captured vessel, now christened Retribution. Blood dripped from his armor as he opened a wide-channel broadcast to the entire reinforcement fleet. His voice echoed across the void, weary, broken, yet utterly unbreakable. "You've seen what happens when you threaten our home. We are not your primitives. We are not your subjects. Leave this system immediately. Or join your friends in hell." The alien admiral's fleet hesitated. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a Concordance armada faced a single primitive world and seriously considered retreat. The silence stretched, thick with tension. The decisive battle for Earth had begun. Over 200 pristine Concordance warships, each more advanced than anything humanity had ever faced, powered up their weapons against the shattered remnants of Earth's defense and one captured, bleeding flagship. It should have been a slaughter. It became the stuff of legends. From the command throne of the newly renamed Retribution, Captain Elias Kane coordinated the impossible. His armor was cracked and scorched, blood still seeping from multiple wounds, but his voice remained steel. "All ships, this is Kane. Converge on Sector 7. Draw their fire away from Earth." Humanity unleashed every nightmare they had prepared in secret. Thousands of AI-controlled drone swarms launched from hidden lunar bases and asteroid shipyards. They sacrificed themselves in waves, slamming into alien shields to overload them. Viral code bombs, digital weapons designed by the world's best hackers, infected enemy systems, turning automated defenses against their own crews. Even civilian volunteers in modified mining vessels and cargo haulers joined the fight, ramming at full burn into enemy flanks. The void burned with fire and fury. "Helm, hard to port." Kane barked as the Retribution took a devastating broadside. The captured flagship shuddered violently. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Crew members were hurled across the bridge. Commander Lena Voss, barely conscious from blood loss, gripped his arm. "Elias. They're breaking formation. I can see gaps in their lines. But they're targeting Earth directly now." The enemy admiral had adapted. Ignoring the smaller threats, the Concordance fleet focused everything on the blue planet. Hundreds of missiles, plasma beams, and kinetic killers streaked toward Earth. Planetary defense shields, rushed into service in the final desperate days, flickered and screamed under the apocalyptic barrage. Major cities went dark. Power grids collapsed. Millions huddled in shelters, praying as the sky lit up with man-made stars of death. Kane made the hardest decision of his life. All remaining human vessels. "Converge on my position. We're becoming the lightning rod. By Earth every second you can." It was a death sentence, and every soul under his command knew it. The Retribution surged forward into the heart of the enemy fleet, guns blazing, drawing the full wrath of 200 warships. Hit after hit hammered the massive ship. Shields collapsed entirely. Hull breaches multiplied. Entire sections were vaporized. Crew members died at their posts, some singing national anthems, others cursing the aliens with their final breaths. On the bridge, Voss looked at Kane with tears in her eyes. "We're not going to make it out of this, are we?" Kane placed a bloodied hand on her shoulder. "We don't have to. As long as Earth does." The Retribution became a blazing inferno, still fighting, still spitting railgun fire and singularity torpedoes even as it fell apart. Alarms screamed warnings that no one listened to anymore. In the final moments, as the bridge disintegrated around him and the hull glowed white-hot, Captain Elias Kane opened one last wide-channel transmission. His voice, raw and defiant, echoed across the battlefield and back to every surviving human on Earth. To the Concordants. "Tell your masters this, Earth does not obey. Earth does not kneel. We are not your primitives. Come again if you want. We'll be waiting. With knives." He triggered the self-destruct sequence. The Retribution, packed with every remaining warhead, antimatter core, and singularity device, detonated in the very center of the enemy formation. The explosion was visible from Earth with the naked eye. A newborn sun that consumed dozens of Concordance warships in an instant. Shockwaves rippled outward, tearing apart formation after formation. When the blinding light finally faded, the once mighty reinforcement fleet was broken. Fewer than 30 ships remained, limping away into faster-than-light jumps, fleeing in total disarray. Earth had survived. The invasion was over. But aboard the scattered wreckage, rescue ships began the grim search through floating debris and dying embers. No signal came from the heart of the explosion where the Retribution had made its final stand. Captain Elias Kane's fate remained unknown. The rescue operation lasted 9 agonizing days. Thousands of human ships, shuttles, and drones combed through the massive graveyard where the Retribution had made its final stand. Twisted chunks of alien alloy floated alongside scorched pieces of human armor. Radiation levels were lethal. Hope was fading. "Contact. Weak distress beacon in Sector 19 Alpha," a sensor officer shouted. A battered escape pod, little more than a reinforced coffin, tumbled slowly through the wreckage. Inside, life signs were critical. They cracked it open under heavy medical supervision. Captain Elias Kane was barely alive. His powered armor had fused to his body in places. Third-degree burns covered 40% of his frame. One lung had collapsed. Yet his cybernetic eye still flickered with faint defiance as medics rushed him into emergency stasis. He woke up 17 days later in a private ward overlooking the Swiss Alps, the same mountains that once housed Seoul Defense Command. The world had changed. Billions celebrated in the streets. Flags of every nation flew together. Strangers embraced. For the first time in human history, Earth stood truly united, not by fear, but by victory against impossible odds. Parades stretched across continents. Children waved tiny models of the Defiance. Veterans wept openly. Kane watched the broadcasts in silence as doctors changed his bandages. The cost had been horrific. Over 40,000 dead in space. Millions more affected by the planetary bombardment. Cities in ruins. Yet humanity had survived. More than survived, they had roared. The Concordants had withdrawn completely from the sector. Reports flooded in from captured alien databases. The Galactic Empire was in chaos. Word of the human incident spread like wildfire through every species. The Primitives had broken a fleet of over 200 warships. They had turned the Concordance's own planet killer against them. They had refused to kneel. New allies began reaching out, species who had long chafed under Concordance rule. Trade offers. Technology exchanges. Warnings. Earth was no longer a backwater. It was the galaxy's newest wildcard. Dangerous. Unpredictable. A species that treated ancient laws as suggestions. Kane refused every medal, every promotion, every interview. 6 months later, he quietly retired to a small wooden house by the Tasman Sea. No guards. No fanfare. Just the sound of waves and the endless sky. On clear nights, he would walk down to the beach alone, scars hidden beneath a simple jacket, and stare upward. The stars looked different now, no longer distant and mysterious, but filled with eyes watching humanity with a mixture of fear and fascination. One evening, Commander Lena Voss, now Admiral Voss, came to visit. She found him sitting on the sand, a half-empty bottle of whiskey beside him. "They're rebuilding," she said softly, sitting next to him. "The Concordance. Intelligence says they're forming a new coalition. Bigger. Meaner. They won't forget what we did." Kane took a slow sip, then smiled that same scarred, dangerous smirk. "Let them come." He looked up at the glittering sky, voice low but carrying the weight of unbreakable conviction. "They warned Earth to obey their galaxy law." And a human captain replied. "That's adorable." The galaxy had learned a terrifying new truth that day. Humans were not the strongest. Not the oldest. Not the most advanced. But we were the ones who would rather burn the stars themselves than live on our knees. We fight dirty. We fight angry. We fight like cornered animals with nothing left to lose, and everything to protect. And we never, ever forget. Somewhere in the deep void, the Concordance was already watching. Planning. Preparing for the next round. But on a quiet beach on Earth, a scarred captain raised his bottle toward the heavens in a silent toast. "Come and try again. We'll be waiting." Because in the end, the greatest weapon humanity ever possessed wasn't our ships, our weapons, or our technology. It was the simple, terrifying, beautiful refusal to bow. And that is why the galaxy will never be the same again. Subscribe.